Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we continue our retrospective that we've been calling Zombie Origins with an entry from the 50s, Zombies of Mora Tau. I am so excited to have forced this film upon the rest of you. This is the best movie to force the rest of this team to watch since Mars Needs Women. I'm so excited. All right. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen Zombies of Mora Tau, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have. So warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of The Iron Thane, an epic in the world of Shakespeare's Macbeth, available now in Kindle and paper. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, lead singer of the band Deserts of Mars and co-creator of the comic Psychon from Tokyopop, Clockworks from Humanoid. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin is Mr. Drew Edwards, editor-in-chief of HorrorMovies.net, writer for Rockabilly Online, and creator and writer of the long-running comic Halloween Man. Say hello, Drew.
Hello.
That's your sinking into the depths. And finally, also in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman. Say hello.
Howdy.
Howdy. Okay, according to Wikipedia, Zombies of Mora Tau is a 1957 horror film directed by Edward L. Kahn from a screenplay by George H. Plimpton, not the animator George Plimpton, I'm pretty sure, and Bernard Gordon, produced by Sam Katzman. This is a Clover picture, which was apparently, according to Robert Osborne, the B-picture wing of Columbia Pictures back in the 50s. It was released on a double bill with another Katzman movie, The Man Who Turned to Stone. All right. Let's get our opening thoughts on Zombies of Mora Tau. And once again, I think it'd be fair another week to let Julia go first because we realized we hadn't let Julia go first in something like 4 years. So, Julia, let's go. Julia, Tony, Drew, and then I'll go. Julia, your opening thoughts on Zombies of Mora Tau.
Well, let's see. Leonard Maltin gives Zombies of Mora Tau 1.5 stars, and Rotten Tomatoes gives Zombies of Mora Tau 1 star, or 1 tomato. So I think I can probably give it 2 stars, maybe. It has its moments, but boy, it has a lot of non-moments as well.
How can there be a lot of, it's an hour long. How can there be a lot of anything?
Right.
In an hour long? Go ahead.
That
Continue,
is the question.
by all means.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the acting, there's a little bit of acting, I think. But for most part, it's not so much with the acting. But, it has some entertaining little parts here and there. So I'm gonna give it a lukewarm review.
All right. Okay. Tony, here are 3 movies into our Zombie Origins retrospective. What are your thoughts on Zombies of Mora Tau?
I actually like it. It's not great. It's firmly a B movie. I guess some people may say a C movie. But I actually enjoyed it. I kind of like the world that they had kind of built, and I like a lot of the characters. There's some weird choices throughout. Also, it's definitely a different kind of zombie, this kind of mystical zombie in a way, and that's pretty interesting. I liked it. I mean, I as much I've been on definitely a B movie kick since I've have all these strange Roku channels that I've been watching lately. So I don't know. I dug it.
When we get to the endorsement section, I think it'd be really great if you expounded a little bit on just various B movie discoveries you've made on Roku. Because I'm a big Roku lover myself.
Oh, sure. I think I endorsed last time. I need to post a couple of the movie channels, like the horror movie and the old movie network and a few others. But yeah, those are super fun. I dig this movie.
Awesome. Drew, Zombies of Mora Tau. Is this your first time? Have you seen this movie before?
I thought I had not seen this movie before, and then we started watching, and this is actually a Sam Katzman picture. Who he was the producer and director, and he was a very prolific maker of B movies back in this time period. He, among other things, had his hand in the Giant Claw and the Werewolf and I think Earth versus the Flying Saucers, which is a better film than this by far. And they all have kind of the same vibe to them, much in the way like, Hammer movies have kind of the same vibe. This to me is a lesser Sam Cat. Like, it's enjoyable. It's kind of bland. I mean, it's just sort of there. There's nothing particularly outstanding or overwhelmingly odd about it, which is why I guess I kind of forgotten that I'd seen it. It's not something I think that I'd read, but it's enjoyable while you watch it. Like, it's entertaining, and I like the cast. Particularly that we got the 50-foot woman in there playing the bad girl. That's always good. I kept cracking up that the guy's name was George Harrison as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad flick. It's fun. Definitely we're progressing along our zombie tropes because we now have large masses of zombies amassing and actually causing this. I think this is the first movie with a full-on siege that we've had, which is of course a staple of modern zombie movies. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, it's a good flick, but it's I think I would maybe give it 2.5 stars. Like it's entertaining, but it's just kind of it's just kind of blah at the same time.
Thank you. I mean, when I look at a film like this, I'm not even sure how to apply stars to it. And here's the thing: if you showed me a paperback book by Alistair MacLean, and you said this is a thing about deep sea divers who are on a treasure hunt for lost diamonds off a Spanish ship that went down 60 years before off the coast of Africa, and the ship is guarded by zombies who attack them while they're diving. That sounds like an awesome book, and it sounds like something that can, in theory, even be a pretty expensive movie. But what I love about this is that it sort of brazenly goes for all that stuff, despite being on a very sort of mild budget. But I love how exotic that is. Everything I just said in that sentence, all of that is exotic. It's like Night of the Living Dead is going to flip all this on its head and go, look at the horror we can give you in just a farmhouse. But in this one, you got people on an adventure to deepest, darkest Africa, the completely white section of Africa, and they've got ships, and they got deep sea diving, and they got knives, and they got jealousy, and they got the captain's wife who's this like strange, salacious harlot who just hangs out and teases everybody, and then turns into a freaking zombie. I mean, it's all. I like how crazy melodramatic this movie is. But you're totally right. I don't know how to. I'm going to segue away from my opening thoughts. My opening thought to wrap all that up is I really love this movie, but I could not possibly rank it in a meaningful sense. That like if Kramer versus Kramer gets 4 stars, what does Zombies of Mora Tau get? I don't even know how to do that, right?
For what it's worth, I'd rather rewatch this than Kramer versus Kramer.
Well,
I don't know what that says about me, but
I can watch this movie over and over. I mean, I can just let it play all day long. It has that's it's certainly much more competent. It's competently made. It's not incompetent in the way that like
no, it's not like Ed Wood, B movie, or it's Hollywood B movie.
It's competent being made. So I want to, but before we go into it, did everybody watch it on YouTube through the one that had the introduction from Robert Osborne on TCM?
Yeah, that's the one I ended up watching.
Yes. Okay. I thought this was fascinating. If the listener watches this movie and watch it through, if you see the one on YouTube with Robert Osborne introducing it, it is so strange because Robert Osborne is the guy who, introduces every movie on TCM. He really seems to be grappling before our very eyes with why exactly he's introducing a movie that he calls Zombies of Mora Tau. And it's so funny to hear him try to explain. He goes, he doesn't even it's even too distasteful for him to say a B movie. He goes, "This is a B budget picture that came out of Hollywood, and it's not as good as other B budget pictures, like I Walked with a Zombie, you know." And then he goes, "But it gives us an idea of what kind of competition was out there for things like that." And I'm like, "Fuck you, Robert Osborne." I mean,
what else is in the theater? I think is what he said.
It's so. And he goes, so, and it's everything, you know. It's everything you do not to go like. But for some reason, we're showing Zombies of Mora Tau. I can't.
Well, no, he says it's because it's around. He says it's because it's around Halloween, and yet he's still kind of baffled. He's still kind of baffled as to why they'd be showing this. And he's so dignified, though. He's so dignified while doing it.
Yes, because his whole body, the poor man, he just kind of shrugs like. So this is Zombies of Mora Tau. And you go to it. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved seeing poor Robert Osborne tortured by this film. You know, it makes you kind of want to make him introduce much worse stuff. You know, and just you know, this is the werewolf versus the vampire woman out of Spain. So anyway. Okay.
Now I'm picturing like not just horror, but like Mortal Kombat 2. They just make him watch Mortal, and you're just like, oh man, this is Birdemic. It was made. Here you go. Just like, but he would be classy about it. But you could. I kind of want to see those, just like, or just have him watch a stream of these, and then just. Have him introduced, like, I'm talking on the bottom of the barrel, like, yeah.
That's actually the gag that they used to do on SCTV with Joe Flaherty playing Count Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
That he would introduce horror movies that had no horror in them, and he'd try to explain why the movie was being shown on his show. That was the whole gag, is nothing he showed was remotely worth watching. And it was fantastic.
Yeah. But I like this movie because it starts like we're fully in this area of the world. It's fully Walking Dead. I mean, They don't have the budget to show, you know, everything, but you know, it starts with them. The guy hits the dude in the road, and she's like, "You hit a man." He's like, "Oh, that wasn't alive. He wasn't a man."
Yeah,
but just like that's what happens. Like, you could be driving around, there's zombies in the road, you hit a zombie, you don't feel bad at all. You're like, we just need to get you to the house. Like, don't worry.
He actually seems to see the zombie and go. It's almost like if you saw, you know, like you're gonna drive through, you know, some rain. So it's kind of like, oh, rain, and then you just drive through it. He seems to have seen the zombie, has absolutely no intention of going around him.
Well, I mean, if it's infested with zombies, like, what's the point? Like, really, that's just, if you hit it just right, maybe that's one less zombie.
Right.
No, I don't think that's even the thought. I think the idea is if you don't hit it, then it's going to come after you in a very, very, very slow fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, they're not bugged by the zombies. I mean, they don't. Yeah. They live in the house. You know, it overall until stuff really goes badly, like, that's not even a thing. It's just you deal with zombies every day, and that's the world you live in that area of, I guess, it's Africa, right?
It's Africa.
Like, yeah, and so like
it's quote Africa, unquote.
Yeah, but I just thought that's what really kind of like hooked me. Like, wow, we are fully. This is one of the first ones where zombies aren't like, what is a zombie? It's, I mean, the girl does, of course, but in general, that area, you're just like, yeah, we got zombies. You know, we deal with it. It's fine.
Yeah, run over them like egg.
Yeah, sometimes they show up and you got to run or jog away. But don't go in the mausoleum. Other than that, you're pretty good. I just thought that was kind of a cool.
Well, it's a great introduction to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the beginning. Like you say, it's the beginning of the movie. Jan is coming to visit Grandma on the coast of Africa. We don't know where. It doesn't matter. Let's just pretend this is.
Well, apparently it's Mora Tau.
Mora Tau, yes. and so.
Which do they ever actually say that's where they're at in the movie?
I don't recall them ever naming the place in the movie. I don't even know. This is my own ignorance, and I apologize. I don't even know if there is such a place as Mora Tau, or if that's a completely made-up.
And if there are zombies there.
Right. I don't think Mora Tau is real. So I think this is I think some Hollywood guy said, what sounds like an exotic locale, and they go, well, what about Mora Tau? You know what was actually happening, like in pop culture at this period, this is the birth of exotica music and the statehood of Hawaii and a sort of national love for tropical stuff. This is the birth of drinks in pineapples and tiki lounges and all that stuff. So calling it Zombies of Mora Tau gives it, it really makes it part of the zeitgeist. And if I were to remake this, you make it half an hour longer, they need a tiki lounge. You need to play that stuff up a little bit more, just what's going on in the culture at the time. So Jan is coming back to see her grandma. Her grandma lives on a big sort of plantation house that's right on the edge of a lagoon, not far from a shipwreck that went down some 60 years before. And Grandma was married to, so I don't know if this makes one of the captain of the ship Jan's grandfather, or maybe if it was a previous marriage. Who knows? Anyway, Grandma was married to... It's great-grandfather. She's the great-grandmother. Oh, it's the great-grandmother. Well, I'm sorry. Anyway, great-grandma was married to the captain of this ship, the Susan B., that went down off the coast, and ever since then, that ship had seized a whole bunch of diamonds, which were held to be holy by voodoo practitioners, and so they're cursed. And so the sailors have turned into zombie sentries.
Just like the Curse of the Black Pearl in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Pirates of the Caribbean really does sort of grab on to a lot of the thoughts. I don't think per se that anybody making Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl had ever seen this movie, but there are a lot of coincidences there. I mean, that's totally true. So anyway, at the same time that Jan shows up, there's also an expedition on a ship. So they introduce all of our characters, and I loved, and Drew, I'll bet you did. I know that you love yourself some 50s melodrama. So I love the dysfunctional crew of the ship that has shown up to get these diamonds, because you got the rich captain, George Harrison, as you said.
I made so many George Harrison jokes while watching this, by the way.
Professor and Marianne.
Yes. So George Harrison and the handsome diver, who is the main diver, who's going to go after the diamonds.
I got to interrupt you there and say that I think the most irritating thing about this movie to me was I don't know what they were doing with the effect with the divers, but whenever they were underwater, like for some reason when they were showing their face, it's like I guess there was a helmet, one of the diver helmets was where and they would just stick their head under there so they couldn't move. But then they would show like a shot from pulled out, and the diver would be moving around and fighting zombies and whatever. But then they come back and he'd be completely still. It looked like you were watching two different movies, or two different scenes at the same time. That I don't know. It probably annoyed me more than it needed to have.
The inserts there are unnecessary and annoying. It would have been better. There's a million other things they could have done without the inserts. Yeah. But it's just, and we'll get to that when we get back to those action scenes, because there are some good things about them as well. But yeah, so we meet the rich guy who owns the ship, the handsome diver. We meet.
I can't believe it's not Marlon Brando, as I like to call him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yes. Tony and I always just call him Not. Like not Marlon Brando, or not Costas Mandylor. I don't know.
Man, how do you? Who's not Costas Mandylor anymore? Like,
actually,
when is that? Like, well, we can't afford Costas Mandylor, so. I mean, No offense.
I'm laughing because that's actually a thing that he has said.
Yeah, I mean, no, like, I don't mean to throw shade that way. It's just like, you know, of all the people, like...
I understand exactly what you mean. Actually, not Costas Mandylor would be Aidan Quinn. Aidan Quinn and
No, Aidan Quinn is... Costas Mandylor is not Aidan Quinn. It's not the other way around. Aidan Quinn is way more famous than Costas Mandylor. Usually you're supposed to pick somebody famous.
Okay.
Which I do use that a lot, actually. I picked it up from you guys.
Anyway, in the melodrama on this ship, has nothing to do with Costas Mandylor. You've got... Beyond the handsome Jeff Clark, who's not Marlon Brando, you've got the egghead professor, and his name is actually Eggert, Jonathan Eggert. And then you've got Vavavoom, you've got Allison Hayes as Mona, and she is like a classic 50s femme fatale. She is trouble on wheels because
she's
like,
she's very nice to look at.
Oh no, she's lovely. She is.
It is just like Gilligan's Island because you got the movie star, Marianne, Professor, Captain.
No, you're right. You're right. Those tropes, you could take that. You're right that you could also take the Gilligan's Island group and put them in a horror movie and just change the names, and you've got a good group of people because they each have their type and so forth. So yeah,
it just surprised me there was never a Gilligan's Island horror thing in the same way that there was like Abbott and Costello stuff, like
like a Halloween.
Yeah, I'm completely. There's probably a Halloween episode, but in general, I'm surprised there wasn't like some Gilligan's Island horror movie thing.
Yeah, like a Scooby-Doo style thing. Where
exactly.
Yeah.
It is surprising that Filmation didn't attempt that because Filmation tried two animated versions of Gilligan's Island.
One of them was like in space, right?
Yes.
Oh man.
Here on Gilligan's Star / Planet.
I like when they introduce the characters, and I never did figure out. So, our femme fatale is like, "Oh, give me a kiss." The guy's like, "Your husband's right there."
Right.
And he's like, "No, why wouldn't you like her to kiss?" And I didn't figure out if he is like, as she's really plants one on him, if he's like, oh, that was a mistake, right? Or if he's like, well, I like to watch. Like I don't know.
I think he's a swinger. Look at that mustache.
Yeah.
There you go.
Come
but
on.
It was just like I could picture it going the other way though, where he was like, she meant to do that.
Well, the funny thing is that the captain. I actually really like this character. I mean, I don't like him personally, but I mean, I like how complicated, or some may say inconsistent, he is. That he can be friendly towards Jeff, but he's also jealous because his wife is like throwing herself at Jeff, and he's willing to make bargains, and he's sort of a Cro-Magnon towards his own spouse when he gets upset, but on the other hand, he doesn't. He's very affectionate towards her, and he defends her when everybody else insists that she's dead, and. There's a lot going on with that character. I really found that sometimes with these B films, there's such a slapdash effort going on in writing these scripts that stuff will just get thrown at the screen, and it keeps you guessing because you're like, for the same reason that somebody else might make something very complicated because they're very skillful. In this case, something will be very complicated because it's kind of more or less random. And I love, watching this. Watching the frustrations of the captain who has sunk $30,000 into an effort to get these diamonds, and that's the deal. Is that they've showed up and they're toasting one another, and Mona is throwing herself at lovely Jeff, and then their first order of business is to go and visit. I'm trying to remember why it is that they wind up at the house meeting the old lady, because do they first? They get attacked right off.
Yeah.
So one of the zombies, and we haven't, we saw one on the road before, but now one of the Walking Dead just sort of drifts up from underwater.
The slowly walking dead, as somebody called it. In one of
Yeah,
the
but you know what I love is every time, and this is the first time we see it, when one of these things grabs you in the water and then you manage to bust it loose by like shooting a flare gun and frightening it with light, it sort of flips backward and just sort of swims away like a shark. That's scary. I mean, the idea of a waterlogged guy just sort of coming up out of the depths and grabbing you is so strange that it's really neat. And this is a black and white film, and it's, you know, they don't show us any wounds, but apparently they're doing bad stuff, because there's a point where the captain gets his leg cut really badly, apparently, by the zombies.
Also, you know, this predates Shockwaves and, you know, Zombie 2 with underwater zombies. That's pretty cool.
Oh, Zombie 2, so that was the one that had a lot of zombies walking on the bottom of the ocean, and that one that fought a shark. And I don't remember how the hell that happened. Did that zombie bite a real shark?
I don't. Yeah, I've had a guy straight up fight a shark.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because back in the day, that's what you had to do.
Yeah. Because you could not animate biting a shark.
Yeah.
Good Lord, I can't believe that they had some stuntman kill a shark on film by biting it. That is the craziest thing. Italians, man. So
yeah. What can you do?
Yeah. Oh, that's not the most shocking thing in that movie either. So go watch Zombie. Check back with us. So yes, this thing, you know, Zombie comes up out of the water. It kills one of their men, breaks his neck, and so they have to take him on shore. And that's when they go to the plantation to meet, you know, Grandma and Jan. I'm going to call her Grandma, even though she's the great grandma or whatever.
Well, not Maria Umpinskaya is what you really should be calling her.
Wow, that's a callback. You're talking about Pentagram Woman. You're talking about the Gypsy Woman from
the Wolfman, yeah.
Oh, yes. Even the one who's, So, but that's what Grandma is kind of like here. You know, she speaks in these low tones, and she's always quite mysterious. She's kind of in her own world. You know,
except she's also the most pragmatic. She's like, oh, yeah, they're zombies. You'll see. There can't be. No, I deal with this every day. They're zombies. Just
also,
this crew is incredibly stubborn, even though there's like overwhelming evidence that they're zombies. They keep going, come on, you don't believe that.
They're scullying.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They kind of move into her, for various reasons the plot gives us, they kind of move into her house. So they're doing everything, you know, they're playing poker and they're smoking, eating breakfast. And at the same time, Tony's right. This woman is the most competent person in this part of Africa, and yet they don't believe a word that she says. At the same time that they're enjoying her hospitality and her awesome house and the fact that she's managed to survive with zombies for like, you know, a long time. Now, she does mention that the zombies are out today, recently, because this ship has shown up. So,
well, she also says they leave her alone because they know she legitimately doesn't want the diamonds.
Right. The zombies come after you for coming after the diamonds. She has dug graves on the hillside for every expedition. That's another thing I'm a sucker for here, is I love expedition movies, you know. So there's been multiple expeditions since the turn of the century, and this is but the latest. And so she's got fresh graves there. So she's got one dug for the sailor who just died. She calls one of her servants to tie him up in a sack, in a sail, and they'll just bury him that way. So, you know, the sailors begin to think that Grandma is maybe she's a con artist, like maybe she's out for the diamonds herself. But what starts then is, I think the next thing we should talk about, because before we get to the zombification of the unfortunate Mona, I wanted to talk about the diving. So, what did you guys think of the diving sequences in this movie? Throughout, we don't have to go chronologically through the whole film this way. Just, I want to talk about the diving sequences in general.
I mean, when they're moving around and stuff, it's kind of cool. I mean, that's how, you know, that's kind of how it was done at the time in general. There's like I mean, it's not too far off from there. There's a John Wayne movie where he's a diver.
Yeah.
And stuff. I mean, like, kind of how you did it, and sometimes it's better than this. Sometimes it's about the same. I don't know. I didn't have as much of a problem, but I am with Julia. Some of the inserts were like, yeah, I don't know if this part's working. But, you know, that's how diving suits were. Big, heavy things.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm not talking
the
about
idea
actual
of being attacked
suits.
by zombies while you're in one of those big, heavy suits, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the suits were fine. It was just when they did the inserts where they just were showing his face, and supposedly he's fighting off zombies, but he's just kind of looking around the helmet like, hey.
Well, most of the time it was the other dude fighting off zombies, and then he was like welding and cutting stuff.
That's true.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But
that was for the most part what it was. So it didn't bother me as much when that was going on. But I mean, it wasn't perfect. That's for sure.
The basic idea with the diving is that, you know, they've got their boat hanging over this sunken vessel, and so they've got 1950s and older style diving suits, which means air hoses that go all the way down, you know, pressure regulators, all kinds of stuff. But it's a whole big. It requires a crew to send somebody down. You know, somebody goes down and somebody else is watching all of his equipment, and you know, and it's both high tech in a funny kind of sense and also very low tech, and so many things can just go wrong. And I was thinking about it, you know, like you watch the crewman, like Tony, you get in the suit, I'm the crewman, and I'm in charge of going up to your faceplate and screwing the faceplate over your helmet, over your face.
That was really funny.
And then you're going to go in the water. This is crazy. You're going to go down to the bottom, and then you're just going to hang there with this glass plate in front of your face. And that's the only thing between you and all that water out there. That's an extremely it's crazy. I love seeing this crude, you know, pre-scuba diving stuff. This is where it is full on, you know, Michael Crichton sort of techno thriller sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, yeah, that's the thing is they have a whole crew to help you too, because, you know, hey, we're putting lead shoes on you. Just think, you know, you'll be fine. Just don't think too far.
There's a lot of
cut that hose.
A lot of trust goes into that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, in a sense, the drama in this part is playing like an adventure movie or even like a doctor show or movie where the doctors are having all of these like jealousies and backbiting and stuff. And then when they're actually in surgery, everybody's working together very well because, you know, you've sort of turned off the drama section and you've turned on the competence, you know, section. All these underwater sequences are done in the style at this time of what Tony was referring to, where you're on a sound stage and you've got panes of glass over which you might put water or smoke or something else to cause a shimmering effect, and then you've got like seaweed that's suspended by wire so it sways. And so as you walk around slowly in pantomime that you're underwater, it gives this illusion that you're walking towards the shipwreck. I loved it. I thought that was neat stuff. It's one of my favorite effects. And maybe it doesn't look real, but it looks like a kind of magical idea of real.
What I like is the combination of, I guess they are using water for the diving scene because they're blowing bubbles, but then you've got...
Really?
I think so, because there's all the bubbles. But then they've got the zombies walking on the ground, which is obviously a dry stage, just made to look like you're saying, with the floating seaweed, because they obviously wouldn't be able to stay on the ground, and you know, and their stuff would be floating around. So,
but you're right. There are times when there are bubbles coming out of the helmets. So
I
I
think it's a mix. I think it's part of it's one way, part
which is pretty impressive. I mean, I love this stuff. All that adventure nonsense is really fun, and I'm a sucker. I've never dived, but I'm a sucker for that stuff. In the same sense that I love the one where Elvis is a diver going after, I think it's sunken gold or something. In San Diego.
What is it with Elvis, like just showing up in all these movies?
Well, he's not showing up in the. You mean in?
No, I mean in random movies that aren't. Oh, was it actually Elvis, or was it a character?
He's not in this one.
No. When you're talking about that movie.
No, that's an actual movie.
Starring Elvis.
That was an Elvis movie.
Oh, okay.
He was a diver. God, what was that called? Easy Come, Easy Go.
Oh, gotcha.
That was it. Yeah. I know that it was very meaningful to you to know which Elvis movie that was.
Yeah.
But, underwater sequences. That's pretty cool. Anyway, we should get to the zombies first themselves, and then the zombification of poor Mona. So the first time we find out where the zombies are coming from, because we know that the zombies have taken to attacking. I mean, they're just sort of wandering the grounds, and they'll start, they're coming at the windows. They've become more and more aggressive. And the zombies in this case are, I don't know, about a dozen or so dead crew members who have not, they haven't decayed. These
are some very fresh looking zombies. They're looking good by zombie standards.
Yeah, and it's lampshaded, in the words of TV tropes, in a bit of dialogue where the old lady says, my husband hasn't aged a day he hasn't changed at all since he died. So their decay has been stopped, and they sort of amass themselves in a mausoleum. Look, I know the people could say this is a dumb movie, but that mausoleum is pretty scary as a concept. The mausoleum, a bunch of open caskets, and the zombies just lay there.
They are pretty well behaved, though. You got to admit.
Yeah.
Like, in general, these zombies, like, while they're getting out and sometimes getting hit by cars, in general, they kind of hang out in the mausoleum. And they even bring people there, like, well, if you're going to be a zombie, we kind of stay here. Like, we don't get out very much until things will provoke us. But in general, we kind of hang here. If you could, when we steal you, if you just could stay around with us, that'd be great.
Also, like, when they attack en masse.
Yeah.
Like this really is, out of all the movies that we've been watching, it's the first one, like, visually, despite the fact that they're not like the very cadaverous zombies that we're used to from the Romero zombie movies and more modern zombie movies, that image of them, like, crashing through windows and, smashing through things, it is very much like a precursor to what we will think of as like a modern zombie movie.
Absolutely, but up until they decide to do that, they mostly hang out in that mausoleum, it appears, until they go wandering out to get hit by cars. Like,
well, they seem to kind of just go out one at a time and, like, meander around the jungle.
Yeah, what you do for fun when you're tired of hanging at the mausoleum
too. I mean, they'll walk past the beach and just walk into the water, and but their actual hideout is in the woods in the mausoleum. So they do make some rounds, but and just if you haven't seen the movie, and by the way, it boggles my mind that you might want to listen to an hour-long discussion of an hour-long movie like this. So it may be difficult for you to follow this movie that we're describing. Nevertheless, these zombies, they look like sailors, sometimes with those, like, slick horizontal bar sailor shirts that you see in old movies. And
I like to define those as slick. Like, most swarthy sailors, most of them don't look slick. I like that you're like, oh, it's very slick. Like, have you seen these sailors?
No.
That isn't the word I would use. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I'm not saying they look well dressed. I'm saying that they're covered. They're waterlogged and they're
sure.
Slick was the wrong word, but
hello,
yeah.
I'm a zombie. What's going on?
Zombies of Mora Tau.
Perhaps I should carry you back to my mausoleum. Have you seen it? Full of marbles. His idea of slick zombies now sounds hilarious to me.
Well, once again, my
slick
mind
sailor zombies.
To Paul Naschy, because Paul Naschy, if he had seen this movie, probably would have remade it very, very well. in Spain. I would have loved to have seen his version of this. By the way, can I just mention the opening titles of this film use this font and these silhouettes of the zombies with the seaweed dripping off of them. But the font is exactly the font that Mad Magazine used to use whenever they wanted to imitate a horror movie poster. In other words, it's like the straight up real deal horror movie font of the 40s and 50s. Just delightful. Anyway, so the zombies hang out in this mausoleum, and they will swarm anybody who comes near.
Which is the only way as is the case with most zombie movies, it's the only way they can actually harm anyone is to corner them or swarm them because they can't catch them.
Right, and that's Kirkman was right, so was Romero, that's what's scary about slow-moving zombies is that if you screw up and you manage to get yourself cornered by them, you're in real trouble because they're relentless. They're just slow, but they're totally.
I think the other thing that's frightening about zombies, although probably a little less so in this because there's very little effort to make them look zombified, is that it's you, but you're not you. It's like you're this shell, and your body's just sort of meandering around, which is this pathetic state that you're now in. So, the idea of being attacked by zombies is scary, but the idea of becoming a zombie might be scarier.
Yeah, no, you're utterly right. There's that feeling of, and we'll certainly get to this with Night of the Living Dead. There's that feeling of perversion and insult, and just exploitation that your body and the body of others, this thing that you've taken care of is being warped and exploited, and that's that's really terrifying. But here there's even I guess there's an awareness of it a little bit here because the captain is one of the zombies, and so she can recognize his body as being that of her husband. And by the way, these zombies are a little bit magical, so it's a little different from the heavy duty biological zombies of Night of the Living Dead.
I mean, they're definitely once you kind of find out that it's because the diamonds. It's a very EC Comics zombie.
Yes, right, right. They're motivated.
They're linked to these diamonds. It's kind of sort of mystical. They're still supposed to be kind of grotesque, but they're not. Yeah, but to me, it felt like it felt more of the early kind of creepy comics as opposed to the full-blown horror comics we eventually get.
I agree with you. I mean, but it's so different now. I think one of the reasons I really like this is that I'm so accustomed to the one that it's really interesting to me to see these alternatives, such that I would enjoy seeing more of this. I mean, we were watching The Deep with Nick Nolte the other day, and that's one where they're diving and there's bad guys going after some Spanish gold coins and yada yada. But if you
who's the woman?
What was it, Barbara Hershey?
No.
Who was it? I
don't remember, but whoever it was, she gratuitously had no bra on the whole time, which is just apparently the most famous part of the movie.
Was it Jacqueline Bisset?
Yeah, Jacqueline Bisset. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. Yes. So that's in the opening sequence when Jacqueline Bisset is diving and looking for gold coins and stuff, and she's wearing a white T-shirt. That's famous sequence. So that's the beginning of the movie. So if all you want to do is see Jacqueline Bisset diving, doing some really excellent scuba diving, also with no bra, you don't have to watch more than 6 or 7 minutes of the movie. But it's a good movie. Anyway, I was just thinking it would be really great. I would have been perfectly happy watching this movie to remake that film and have zombies defending the Spanish gold. I'm so inspired when I watch these things. I go, wow, there's so much there's so many old things that we could just completely start emulating, which is the nicer way to put it. Okay, so anyway,
or maybe instead the reverse of that, you could just have Cocoon, only they all hang out in a mausoleum instead.
Yes,
Let's turn it all on its head.
Let's come to the mausoleum. We won't get any older, and we won't ever die.
Exactly. I mean, it's creepy because we're also in a mausoleum, but other than that, it's fine.
I've seen some old folks' homes that,
Ugh.
No,
yeah.
I feel like I need to watch Cocoon again. I don't remember anything
It's a
about
toss-up, really. Tony's version of Cocoon.
It's darker, I guess, in some ways.
My fault. My bad.
No problem. Tony's version of Cocoon is much more exciting than the actual version of Cocoon. But I do remember that. It was a decent film. It had a.
No, I like that. I like that movie. I'm just picturing strange remakes. Anyway.
No, I think that's a wonderful idea. Steve Guttenberg fighting off Wilford Brimley zombies. That's a great.
Somebody out there, please do this mashup.
He's available. I'm pretty sure that Guttenberg will show up. Okay, so these zombies. The interesting thing is they're out to knife you. We don't see if they're biting, but maybe they're biting because what happens is they grab Mona.
Well, no, Mona runs off because her husband slaps her, and she runs off into the jungle. And then hours pass and she never comes back. And Grandma's like, "Oh, she's been gone that long. The zombies have her."
Right.
So they go. So they go off at a party to find her, and she's in the mausoleum hanging out with the zombies.
Yeah. What's the moral of that story, by the way?
Don't run off into the jungle when you know there's full of zombies.
When there's zombies.
No, but I mean the part where he hits her and then she runs off and gets.
Don't slap your wife, obviously. But
unless you want her to become a zombie, and then I guess.
It seems to be don't run away from your abusive husband, or zombies will get you.
Yeah. If only she could have stabbed him.
Yeah,
if only she could have stabbed him for slapping her. Well, that couple's pretty terrible people in general, though.
Yeah.
In general, you can't really, I don't know. A, of course he shouldn't be abusive, but, B, she's pretty awful. They're awful to each other, I guess, is the big takeaway.
I don't think you're supposed to think that he's a good guy. At no point does he ever ever come off as well, this guy's great. So I don't know that we're supposed to think anything of that there's any. I get what you're saying, Julia. I don't know. I don't know if there's any subtext there.
I think
at least not intentionally.
It's a cascade of events. It's just a series of circumstances and errors. By the way, it's a direct lift from pioneer movies or your typical frontier films. So you've got a fight that goes on inside the camp. The John Wayne's second lieutenant or first lieutenant is really angry and he's fighting with his girlfriend, and so she runs off and she doesn't come back. Why? Because there are Apache out there, and you don't run off, and so that happens. That's I think that's kind of cool because then, of course, just like in one of those movies, they have to form a search party, even though it's a doomed search party. I mean, they all know that there's a very good chance that she's already dead.
Well, also, when it's oh, she's been gone a while, guys, you should probably check the mausoleum. That's kind of where dead people go around here. So, and sure enough, that's where.
So is this the first instance of zombies turning other people into zombies?
Exactly.
Yeah. As far, there might. There's probably.
But we don't know how they do it. How do they do it?
We don't know how they do it.
We don't know. We don't ever see it. They kill her, and because they kill her, I think it's not.
A zombie killing you makes you a zombie?
That's the impression because they think the dude's going to be a zombie whenever they attack him underwater.
Yeah, she says at the beginning they have to bury people quickly around those parts So I imagine, like, anybody, it is a little on the George Romero side of things, where anybody that dies gets up and becomes a zombie.
But it definitely seems like she says that, but it does seem like definitely going to happen if you get killed by a zombie. Like, regardless of other circumstances, if you get killed by a zombie, for sure, that's the thing that's going to happen. Because they are really, like, she's really concerned when, diver guy gets attacked and he's in a, like, kind of coma or whatever.
But they should bury him fast.
Yeah.
And which suggests that these zombies are weak, but that down there, 6 feet underground, whatever's left of them is still trying to get out of this grave, which is an amazing thought. And if you think of zombies as being symbols in these films of pestilence in some way or another, you can imagine cholera or something like that, where they're like, well, this person died and everybody's going to have to do their emotional thing, but the first order of business is we need to get that body safely into whatever it is that we do to take care of bodies, into this big pyre or into this grave or whatever.
Yeah, but this is less of that and more of like I said, like it's more of an EC Comics mysticism.
Yeah.
You're right. Don't meddle where you're not supposed to meddle. Kind of moral in a lot of ways. But yeah, so I think it's interesting that her husband slaps her, she goes away, but she doesn't go after him when she first decides to get stabby, which instead of attacking traditional.
We should talk about finding Mona though in the mausoleum. They find her and she's laying there in the middle of the room next to the zombies, and so they go, we need to grab her, but they're arguing already over whether she's dead because they get her to set up, and I can't remember if they carry her or walk her out, but she's ambulatory, and so
they walked her in.
Yeah, they bring her back to the house, and the grandma looks at her. This woman, I mean, this is so crazy. They're walking this woman down the hall towards the dining room, and grandma looks at her and goes, "She's dead. She's dead." It is so weird.
She's like,
oh my God, that's strange.
Well, but it's not that strange because she's around these people all the time, so she knows what they look like.
No, I know. Like. But I mean, as a thing happening in a movie, that's weird. It just doesn't happen very often that a bunch of people are not sure what to do with this person. Somebody else goes, well, this person is dead. Mm-hmm. Even though they're walking around, it's fascinating. And they're like, well, you're crazy because clearly she's just, she's severely injured. There's some argument. They finally decide we're going to put her to bed but surround her with candles because she's afraid of...
Nope.
Oh, it's not yet.
They put her to bed. Even though at first she's like, I don't want her in my house. And then she's like, okay, fine. And so they put her to bed, and then she gets up and kills someone and tries to kill her husband and tries to kill, like, several people, and then they surround her with
candles. This is where Tony says, at the point she gets stabby.
She gets stabby. Then they surround her with candles.
Yeah, because the zombies are afraid of fire. Mm-hmm. So she just sits there staring at the candles, for much of the rest of the film. And this is actually really tragic. I mean, so this one, you remember in Return of the Living Dead, they had the character who was half zombie for a lot of the movie? That was what I kind of thought of here is this character that everybody's trying to keep around.
Well, it reminded me of Night of the Living Dead's little girl.
Yeah, the little girl who's been bitten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they put her in the basement, and
she's kind of under quarantine.
Yeah. It's once again that notion of zombieism being pestilence. And Tony pointed out in this movie, I like what you said, it being more like an EC comic because it's mystical, but it's so funny how the two just sort of keep flowing back and forth, zombies.
Right.
Zombies being magic versus zombies being biology.
Well, but, I mean, even in Romero, like, there's a light possibility that it's sci-fi, but it's also, they say in Dawn of the Dead, it could just be that there's no more room in hell.
Right.
Like, no one really knows what's going on. And, like, any disease that's going to make the dead get up and start walking around, I mean, you know, that's got a quasi-mystical angle to it anyway. You know, and you talk about it representing, like, death, like, disease is part of death. You know, death and disease are intertwined. So, I mean, it's
yeah.
You know, I mean, this being supposed to take in Africa, it's easy to think about malaria or, you know, any other bloodborne illness that's rampant in that area. So I just think that, you know, the imagery goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
right.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think it's no accident that, you know, you're constantly going back and forth with. I'm not saying the movie is necessarily arguing that it's biological or that it's magical or whatever, but
I don't even think that. I think any of the imagery in this that they hit upon is probably accidental. Because I mean, unlike White Zombie and I Walked with a Zombie, I think this movie wasn't made with necessarily any real subtext in mind.
It's very possible. You know, that's
yeah. I'm with you there.
All right. So anyway, all that's left now that they've lost a number of sailors and Mona has been zombified and is sitting in a bed surrounded by you know, the wrapped around your finger video from the police. They decide, listen, we got to get these diamonds so that we can get out of here and get her to a doctor and whatever. So they're going to go on one final 2-man dive and, you know, go down and get the diamonds once and for all, which they managed to do. And this is actually a really exciting, long, extended sequence between the dive to get the diamonds with Jeff trying to get the little golden casket that has the diamonds in it, and Mr. Harrison fighting off the zombies that are coming after them. And they both struggle to get back because, like Tony said, they have lead boots, so it's a pain in the ass to haul them back up to the top. And then the moment they get up to the boat, the zombies start swarming the boat, and then there's a long action sequence with that. This is all good. I mean, this is all rolling, you know. And then the movie, basically Jeff he decides, listen, I'm going to take the diamonds back to the house because get away from the ship because the zombies are going to definitely get the diamonds if we stay on the ship. And that's when there develops this real enmity between Jeff and the captain, who seems to think that Jeff is going to steal the diamonds. But there's not really any evidence for that so far. Although
he's not real eager to let go of them.
Well, that's true. You know, and in better movies, we often see this thing where once people have their hands on diamonds, it's really hard to, like, get them to act morally.
Or anything where there's lots of value. No, I mean, once she's like, you know, Grandma says the only way to get rid of the zombies is to destroy the diamonds, he's like, how about if I just sell them all over the world? That should do it.
Right. Well,
like,
this is fascinating.
Nope, that's not going to work.
Grandma says destroy the diamonds. Well, this is the first we've heard of this, right? Grandma says destroy the diamonds. And he's like, no way. And I'm going the same thing because to me his argument where he says, listen, if I sell them around the world, what possible, you know, damage are the zombies going to do?
They'll just go all over the world and kill the crap out of everybody.
I guess so. Yeah.
Create an epidemic of zombies. It'll be outbreak of
zombies. You know,
zombies.
the zombies are pretty tough, but
they can walk on the bottom of the ocean forever.
Yeah, but if you plan for them coming at you, like let's say you got a bunch of flamethrowers, since we know they're weak to flame, and you just burn them down the ash.
I guess.
I bet you got those diamonds.
Okay, remembering that all these people who already have been exposed to the idea of zombies still didn't believe it, even with, like you say, given all the evidence that there is, they don't even believe it. Imagine how hard it would be to convince the whole world that they just need. I mean, eventually it could happen.
No, I'm saying you don't give you hold on to the diamonds so you know they're coming for. Like you drive off on the boat. You get nice and you get it where like even if they're walking along the ocean, it's going to take them a while. Mm-hmm. You get yourself, you know, some hardcore artillery, some flamethrowers. You go Colonial Space Marine on these guys' ass.
I
think you got that, and you have these diamonds, so you can pay for it. And then you have
I'm sure that plan would have gone flawlessly, but
yes,
it's not the way
and that plan won't come
together
together until after the zombies make some trouble. I guarantee you. Once the zombies come to New York, they're going to have to kill some people, and then some guy, Jeff Clark, Diver, is going to walk into the mayor's office and go,
well, Drew's saying don't even...
No, I'm saying you plan. You plan for them to come after you, and then you annihilate them.
He's saying
don't leave Africa. Just go to, like, Mozambique or something. Just go
here's
a little
the
bit.
problem I have with that.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, since these are mystical... zombies is that you're going to create. I'm with Jason. Everywhere you go, you're going to create more zombies, and you're going to have to fight more zombies. Because
it's worth experimenting.
That's what happens.
It's worth the experimenting. Or you hire yourself
until
an
they
exorcist.
overpower you. Until they
you
overpower
hire
you,
yourself
it's worth
an
it.
exorcist. I'm saying it can be done. You hire yourself an exorcist or something.
Drew, I propose that they would be like the government of the United States, and they would not all of them go. Like, they would send some sentries out, be like, hey, you guys go for the diamonds, but just in case it's a trap, the rest of us are going to stay here and create more
They're zombies. They're not that smart.
Well, you don't know. They might plan.
They don't seem that bright.
Ants are ants, but they're, like, remarkably good planners.
They don't seem that bright.
I don't know the extent of there's no murder legendary in this movie, but there might be some force that could decide, well, since we're going to have to cross the ocean, we're going to need to make at least one smart zombie that can figure things out or something.
I say you hire yourself. Okay, outside of getting all the artillery, you hire yourself.
Trying to answer the question of whether
you hire yourself a witch doctor because you got the money.
Yeah.
And you go sick house on their zombie asses. I think you could do it.
See,
I'm sorry, Drew, but I think you're going to be zombie food, dude.
Yeah. You're also
I'm gonna do Bruce Campbell proud.
What's your thought, Tony?
I think you're also overestimating just how much money you're going to make off these diamonds. Like, they never give the impression
they're saying $1 million, $1 million a person. That's a 1950s money.
I guess you make it sound more like it's Scrooge McDuck money, and I'm not convinced of that.
Flamethrowers ain't that expensive, man. It can be done. Done.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. You might be able to get a flamethrower at the Army-Navy store in 1957. I don't know. All right.
Or you at least can get yourself a fallout shelter. It is the 1950s.
Well, look, here's what...
Well, yeah, you're great until all the people in your fallout shelter die and turn into zombies and kill you. Again,
I think it can be done.
Use it to try to have sex.
You're thinking of Grease 2?
I am thinking of Grease 2.
I think it can be done.
Now I want to watch Grease 2. Okay. Jeff decides, screw that. I'm taking these diamonds. He cons the captain out of the diamonds, basically, because the captain turns on, who knows, maybe he was thinking of it's muddy at this point whether Jeff intended to steal all the diamonds or if he only does it because the captain becomes a jerk. But regardless, the captain takes the casket, the golden casket, and Jeff takes a bag of diamonds. They both head for the docks. First thing that happens is Captain takes his zombie wife because he's going to take her to a hospital or something. And zombie wife immediately picks up the casket when Jeff, bends down to untie the boat. She picks up the casket, bonks him on the head, and instantly kills him, which is just rough. I mean, that was really rough. So that's it for him. And she just wanders off with the zombies. And then Jeff and Jan and Grandma go get in the boat, and the zombies show up, and Grandma pleads with Jeff one more time. She doesn't plead loudly. She just has a moral imperative for him. And she says, destroy them and you'll set them free. And so he finally decides to take these diamonds and throw them into the water to scatter them, and gets rid of them. And
I call bullshit on that. That is the thing I call bullshit, because she keeps saying, "Oh, we have to destroy them. We have to destroy them."
That's why I was like,
they're in
drop them in
shallow
the water
water now. They're easier to get at.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I was like, well, how are you gonna destroy diamonds? That's the first thing.
But you can't get at them because you saw their diving suits. They can't do squat with those diving suits.
That was out by the boat. This
can't
is like
over.
in the lagoon.
Scattering them into the water, you are destroying their value because they'll never be found again.
Yeah, they're going to be
it's
scattered all over the place.
mystical.
You might find one or whatever, but you're not going to find them. They're going to be inside the sand.
Now, I don't understand why he didn't at least pocket one, because that would have bought him a house.
No, it would have bought him more zombies coming
Yes,
after him for
exactly.
the one time.
She's right. That is the rules of the curse.
Stupid coins.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
No. If he cashed that in, it would have killed the person who the jewel dealer. It wouldn't have killed him. It's whoever has the diamonds they go after. So if you are okay with killing some random guy for your house,
Now we're saying, what is the value of someone else's life? Is it one diamond?
I mean,
what is that in 1950s money?
Isn't that the classic ethical test? Is something like, there's a boy suffering on an island somewhere forever, but he keeps everybody else safe, and so would you make that deal, the ethical deal of torturing somebody that you don't know and will never see, and it's a complicated question.
Also, I guess in some ways though, like the destroying part is when she dumps them. It is the mystical, like, oh, I guess we're zombie free, but they don't even say that they're zombie free at that point. They're just, hey, they won't mess with us.
Well,
except the guy disappears.
Oh yeah,
Captain.
Yeah.
They appear to be mystically free. Their souls are set free.
Or maybe Mona was still out there somewhere being sexy zombie.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, so Jeff has decided really at this point. He gives up all of his riches, but he has Jan. So when you think about it, here's what was going to happen. He was going on this diving trip, and he was going to get a small cut of this trip. He's going to get 25%, I guess, which was a good deal. And now he's going to get nothing, but he has true love. So I guess and he did a good thing. He was a mensch. He set some people free. So that's the end. But it's painful to me to watch, just like on in the Last Crusade. You don't want Indy to give up the cup, even though obviously you have to. This priceless thing, he has to let it go, even though once you have your hands on it, nobody wants to let go of it. I love that trope. That's a really favorite trope of mine. And that's the end. That's he goes well on probably.
Well, the monster, and like every good classic monster movie ends and the monster is dead.
Yeah. And again, EC Comics as well. Morality has
That's
won.
absolutely right.
And
although
we can all walk away from
often
it.
ended just with the revenge, with the zombie getting its revenge. And
I liked how this one ended. I thought it was a sweet ending. It was very romantic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was satisfied with the ending.
It's a very, very classic Hollywood ending.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. No matter who else has died, the guy and the girl get together, and we fade. He has a wisecrack, and then we're out. I mean, it's a perfect 1957 B film in that.
Well, but I also liked the part where the old lady or the grandma gets to say goodbye to her husband finally, and he's at peace. I thought that was really sweet. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier that one thing that made this movie just like it lost 10 points immediately is the screaming when the blonde chick gets taken by the zombies, and she just keeps screaming and screaming, and it's this really high-pitched, whiny, annoying scream. I was like, it was like nails on a chalkboard. That was driving me so crazy.
No, well, there's the part where they break in, and it's just her and both women screaming.
Oh, but
in
every
the bedroom
time they're
just
screaming
constantly.
in this movie, it annoys the
Yeah,
crap out of
no,
me.
Yeah.
that is, oof, yeah. Well, Rain was like going to bed, and I was watching the movie, and I was like turning it down, like, oh man, this is, I can't take it.
But it made me
Wake the
appreciate good B-movie screamers a lot more, because these were not good screamers.
That is true.
So we should get our final thoughts. This has been a really fun conversation, actually, about Zombies of Mora Tau. So final thoughts. Joya, did you have anything else that you wanted to add about Zombies of Mora Tau?
No, I think I probably said most of what I wanted to say about it. But, it's always interesting to see something different. Like I say, even if you don't like the movie, it gives you an appreciation for the other movies. So there's that value.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Was it Tony next? Tony?
Yeah, I dig it. I think it's got a lot of cool parts. I like, again, I know I keep going back to it, but I like its kind of EC Comics feel.
Yeah.
It just struck that chord with me personally. But it's got a lot of great bits. I like the mystical zombies, and I like the kind of how we see this progression to, masses of zombies. I think it's cool to watch the zombies attacking classic diving suit like people, and that, I mean, if they'd had a bigger budget, this had been the suspense there, where the guy's like they're fighting out the zombies, and he's trying to, use a cutting torch on the zombies, and hopefully that'll work. And, can he cut loose the diamonds, all that stuff? Like, that's a really great setup.
Yeah.
Could it have been done better? Maybe, but like in general, that's pretty. And it was probably even more intense if this is, that time period. We've seen a lot more suspense, and some things done better, but that was really cool. I think there were a lot of great bits, despite may get 1 stars or 2 stars here and there, but for a zombie movie, man, I've seen tons worse that are newer on Netflix. You can see all manner of zombie movies. Most of them are kind of crappy. Most of them use fake blood, which is less effective than anything you see in this movie. So, yeah, I'm down with it. I'm glad that you turned us on to it. I'm glad I watched it.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're glad. Drew, final thoughts. Zombies of Mora Tau.
I guess I'm sort of in between Julia and Tony on this. I don't think it's an amazing movie by any stretch, although it is interesting to talk about as within the context of the evolution of cinematic zombiedom. But it's definitely a fun old school monster movie, and it's enjoyable. And as Tony said, it's probably a lot better than many other zombie movies that are out there, because Lord knows the last decade or so there's been so many zombie movies made. We probably couldn't even cover them all if we decided to do nothing but zombie movies for the next year. So it's a fun movie. I don't know if it's a movie I will revisit in the near future, but I might get the urge to rewatch it again at some point.
Very cool. Since I'm a devotee of tiki culture and all that mid-century obsession with tropical I don't even know what the word, mystique that created all of this culture in the United States, all these things that were meant to sort of digest what we were discovering about the rest of the world after the war and the addition of Hawaii to the United States, so that you had like all this new lounge music that was kind of a reinterpretation of ethnographic pieces. This fits in with that, and so I really love seeing this as just a piece of understanding culture in the late 50s. I really dig it. I could just play this movie. This is also, because it's so silly and the dialogue is so horrible and so forth, and everything's so, even though there's some wonderful ideas here, as Drew says, there's a great suspicion that they're accidental. I could just play this over and over and let it, and go about my work and look up occasionally going, oh, this is the point where they've got zombie Mona surrounded by candles. Good movie. Reminds me a lot, by the way, of the stuff that Larry Blameyer is doing in his various comedies, like The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
Oh, this is totally the sort of thing The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra is what I'm doing.
Cadavra, actually. But, I mean, when you think of, like, the imitation fake dialogue, the imitation serious dialogue that Blameyer does in Lost Skeleton and other movies like that, it's just like the movie, the dialogue in this movie, only in this movie, of course, it's played completely straight. Great stuff.
Well, Jason, if you like this, you should, you probably have seen a lot of them and not realize it, but you should try and find some other Sam Katzman movies to watch.
I don't think I have. Sure I know that he did mainly science fiction, like he did the werewolf movie, but it was a science fiction werewolf, right?
There's the werewolf, there's the giant claw. I've used to have a box set of them, and I'm blanking on a lot of the titles right now, but that's where I first saw this, and you should check them out, because if you like this aesthetic, you would find his other movies very enjoyable.
Awesome. Well, anyway, that's my closing thought. Is I love this because I love stuff from this period, and this is a good example of it. All right, endorsements. I don't know. Do we have anything to endorse? Let us find out. Julia, anything that you want to talk up this week?
I'm going to go back in time and endorse Jack Reacher, because I just watched it again on TV and was like, this is a really fun movie. I get such a kick out of it. It's completely different from the actual novels, but it's very entertaining and interesting. So if you haven't ever seen it, go back and watch it.
Yeah, a lot of people miss Jack Reacher because that was the the weekend after the Newtown massacre.
Oh yeah.
And nobody wanted to go see violent movies that weekend. It really did literally hurt the box office for the Jack Reacher movie. But it's a good movie. It is.
Is it that the movie where Werner Herzog is the bad guy and he demands one of his henchmen bite off their own thumb?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
That's an inspired bit of casting.
And he goes, you can either do that, and if you want to survive, or you can be shot. And then the guy, they can't do it, and he goes, they always choose the gun or the bullets. I can't remember what they said. They always choose the bullet. How many times have you done this?
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? That's brilliant. That's a good bit. All right. Tony, did you have anything to endorse this week?
I am drawing a blank, and that's terrible. I'll have to post stuff on the Facebook page.
Happens to me. It's happened to me many times, so no worries. Drew, any endorsements this week?
A couple of things, one horror-related and one not. I'll do the one that's not first. Netflix just updated their films for the month, and they have added Orion, the Man Who Would Be King. It's the story of Jimmy Ellis, a guy who kind of looked like Elvis and sounded exactly like Elvis, like spookily so. He was about 10 years or so, give or take, younger than Elvis, but he had been trying to have a film career, or not a film career, or singing career, but couldn't get a break because how much he sounded like Elvis. They were like, well, we already have one Elvis, why do we need another one? Well, around the time Elvis died, Sun Records had this gimmick where they would put basically a Lone Ranger mask on him, and they called him Orion, and they basically tried to pass him off as Elvis back from the dead, and a lot of people actually bought into it and believed it. And it's one of the most fascinatingly odd stories. I've always thought this was an interesting story. This is one of the most fascinatingly odd stories in the history of rock and roll music. And I actually, as of a few years ago, I actually knew a young woman that truly believed that Orion was Elvis, even though, it's the whole story has since all come out. And strangely enough, he was adopted, And one of the things they go into in the story, in the documentary, is that there is a bit of a chance that he might have actually been Elvis's half brother through a weird series of events. But I mean, this was never proven, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. But Jimmy Ellis, Orion, the guy that did it, he felt besieged by Elvis because Elvis is the reason why he never was able to get fully ahead. So he never fully even explored that. But he was adopted. So but on his birth certificate, it's had his biological mother's name, and then just Vernon for the father's name. And Elvis's dad, of course, was Vernon Presley. So very strange story. Orion, the man who would be king. If you want to hear a unique tale in our pop culture history that has largely been forgotten, but is absolutely fascinating, check this out on Netflix. It's only an hour and a half long, totally worth your time.
That's an amazing endorsement. This is all new to me. I've never heard of any of this, so I can't wait. That sounds great.
Well, I'm glad I'm able to introduce, because I've long been fascinated by Orion, because I am a bit of an Elvis fan, as we talked about back when we did Bubba Hotep, and I even worked as an Elvis impersonator for a while. Orion never thought of himself as an Elvis impersonator. He just kind of had this thrust upon him, but it's a fascinating story. My second endorsement is for the season opener of Penny Dreadful for season 3 has just been put up on YouTube for free, and the last 10 minutes of this show really goes to show you. You hear a lot of people be critical of vampires, and in particular Dracula, in horror fiction, saying like, oh, we're too used to these characters, we're too used to these concepts, they can't be scary anymore. Well, this is the introduction of the character of Dracula into this universe, and it is absolutely some of the most chilling moments of TV horror, and it's so subtle and subdued and creepy, and it plays off of the iconicness of the various characters in Dracula lore, while also giving them back like a lot of their mystery. And this is for people who say that it's not worth to even try to make Dracula scary anymore. I would just love to be able to take out this 10-minute chunk of this new episode of Penny Dreadful and make them watch this and go, see, this can be done. You're just not trying hard enough.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a really good tip. I'll definitely check it out as well. Very cool. Thank you. All right. My endorsement. There's a really cool couple of MST3K things coming up. So Riff Tracks, over the next 2 months, they're doing Time Chasers, which was a big MST3K episode back in the day, and they're doing a new one of Riff Tracks with new riffs, new jokes. That is coming up, I think, in the next 2 weeks, because I know I'm going to go see it on May 17th, but I think there's one that's this week. And then in June, there is, not making this up, the MST3K reunion, which is going to have all the original cast, because the Riff Tracks guys have been Bill Corbett and Mike Nelson and Kevin Murphy, but in the reunion, they're also going to be joined by Trace Ballou and Frank Conniff and Mary Jo Pale, and I can't remember if Joel Hodgson, who's the original host, will be on there, but it'll be a big mega show, and it'll all be shorts. It'll all be short films, and so they can trade off doing the gags and stuff like that. And the thing of it is, these live shows, you can do them, if you're in like Milwaukee or wherever they're filming it, you can go live and watch them. But they're broadcast live through fandom to like your local movie theater. So like I usually go see it at the UA, like down the street from our house. So it's awesome, and I'm really looking forward to the MST3K reunion show. Oh, I got one more thing. Ghost of Mrs. Mura is back on TV. I think for the first time in like 15 or more years, because Nick at Night played it once. The Ghost of Mrs. Mura is playing on one of the many superstations. This one's called Get TV. And so if you have Get TV or you have access to it, Ghost of Mrs. Mira is on. You've heard me talk about it before. It is a wonderful, goofy sitcom about a woman in love with a ghost. That is Julia. Did we got your endorsements, right? You were first.
Yep.
Okay. So that's everybody. All right. The usual. If you listen to the show, but you have friends who don't listen to the show, grab them and tie them to a chair and surround them by candles and force them to listen to the show.
We do not advocate bondage.
Right.
Well, not that kind of anyway.
Right.
Consensual only.
Bondage, but it wouldn't make any sense to be listening to our show. That would be crazy. Please write us a review if you haven't already on iTunes, because it's awesome and it helps people find the show, because the more reviews you have, the easier it is for people to find your show if they're looking around on iTunes. Come to the Facebook page. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Tell us if you were inspired by this episode to go watch Zombies of Mora Tau, or if you think I was unfair to Robert Osborne, or any number of other things. And we will be back next week with a zombie movie from the swinging 60s. So I cannot wait to talk about, I'll say it, it's going to be Plague of the Zombies, as we rocket our way towards the dawn of the modern zombie era, 1968's Night of the Living Dead. So we've got 2 more episodes in this zombie retrospective, unless we figure out something random to throw in there in the middle. So thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for the conversation, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Night.
See ya.
Night of the Living Dead.